This new Titan Arc build takes Bolt Charge and Barricades to the next level. With this build, we'll be taking advantage of the brand new buffs to the Crest of Alpha Lupi to provide us and allies with health by just damaging enemies, but at the same time be able to have Radiant for a weapon damage increase, never have to reload, fire out fireballs to clear surrounding adds, and we can just sit back behind a never ending barricade with constant bolt charges and stackable buffs, with health being given to us, literally melting everything in the room. This build is great for both ad clearing and boss damage phases, as it doesn't even matter what difficulty you play on, because as you see here, I'm in an activity 50 under the recommended power level with negative modifiers, and this build just wrecks. This build doesn't just give us more passive damage due to the bolt charges, but we're now benefiting from health pulses as well due to the buff of the exotic armor. So we literally cannot die, and with that class stat being higher than 160, you'll get a barricade back normally before the previous one has disappeared by doing nothing. And those barricades really do take a beating for you, so you should be thanking those barricades for the amount of lives it will save, and has saved over the past few seasons. If you've got armor sets, you can make this build even more wild. So guys, this is a build you definitely don't want to miss out on, so stick around till the end so that you can be endgame ready. Alright guys, real quick, let me put you onto this game that I've been diving into lately. And honestly, with 5 million monthly active players, the numbers literally say it all, and if you stick around to the end, you're going to walk away with a ton of free stuff. Now there has never been a better time to start playing Raid. This month they're going crazy with bonuses. Just by using my link or scanning my QR code, new players get Kellan the Shrike and Grizzled Jarl, plus a legendary champion using a promo code of your choice. Even better though, if you log in for just 7 days between July 3rd and August 20th, you'll get Leminisi the Gold-wing, another legendary, but you have to start by July 31st or you miss out. And trust me, she's worth it. She has amazing skills and the kind of utility that makes progressing through Raid so much smoother. She's even built to beat the event dungeon boss. What I personally love about Raid is how deep the PvE content is. It's easily the most advanced, especially compared to other mobile games I've played. You got campaigns, dungeons, clan bosses, arenas. It actually feels like the progress you make actually matters. It's not just grind for grind's sake, plus it looks incredible. We're talking AAA graphics, and you can play seamlessly across PC and mobile. The cross-platform support in my opinion really is a game changer. But I do have to show love to my favourite faction, the Sylvan Watchers. They live in the Mistwood, this eerie jungle, and their vibe, total nature guardian energy. Some of these champions have moss and mushrooms growing off them, and some are basically trees. Two of my favourite champions in this faction are Elva Artenborn, a powerful support with healing abilities, and Leminisi herself, who is also part of this faction. And honestly, she's already one of my favourite champions, and you'll see why when you get her yourself. So guys, what are you waiting for? Click my link or scan my QR code to start with Kellan the Shrike and Grizzled Jarl after reaching level 15. And one of these 4 legendary champions. You got Green Warden Ruark, Alice the Wanderer, Tuhanarik, or Fallen Fullbeard. I'd personally recommend Green Warden Ruark because he's so tanky and can survive through some of the most toughest fights. But remember, only one code and valid for 48 hours after downloading from my link or QR only. Once you're in, come and find me under my name Divide21 in my Divided World clan here, and let's raid. So now getting back into the video, first things first, we need to go over the buffs and nerfs that affect this build. So with the Edge of Fate, Bungie did nerf the Storm's Keep arc aspect slightly, which we will be using, so it now no longer stacks Bolt Charge when standing behind multiple barricades. Before, you could just have multiple Titans with barricades or place down multiple barricades of your own, and you would all rapidly get Bolt Charges a lot faster by standing behind them, but now you cannot do that, and it just charges from one barricade. But to make up from this, we will have other things like Ionic Traces and other buffs that will make the build overall feel a lot stronger. Now on the other hand, for the buff side, the Crest of Alpha Lupi got buffed, so now you can heal from the barricade with a healing pulse, and when you trigger the healing pulse, you get the barricade back faster. And you might think, is this exotic even needed? Is it even any good? Why use it over Cuirass of the Fallen Star? Well, the simple answer is both are unique to their own. You can use the classic Cuirass if you want to have that extra Thunder Crush damage, but for content where you take a lot of damage but need to deal a lot of damage, the Crest is now good since it just helps with overall survivability. So while you're damaging enemies, you'll be able to throw down a barricade and get health and an overshield, and also trigger healing pulses as well. It's more of the case of having it to survive whilst you're dealing damage, but also while dealing with a lot of incoming damage. But what the exotic does now is it generates an extra orb of power from supers. Generating a barricade or dealing sustained damage or defeating targets from behind one creates a healing pulse. Healing your allies grants barricade energy. So in my opinion, this is a pretty strong buff and makes the exotic worth using now for endgame content, and when pairing it with old builds like the Bolt Charge one that we had last season. And I'll be honest, if we didn't have Bolt Charge, I probably wouldn't use this. It's just purely the fact that Bolt Charge is still really strong, and now we can melt adds quickly with Bolt Charge, but also be healed at the same time, maintaining all of these effects. There are two different ways you can play with this build. The first is sitting back and using Polaris Lance or any solo weapon, purely because we have a ton of seasonal artifact perks benefiting this strategy. Or you can sit back with a weapon like Outbreak, or just any weapon you prefer, so you aren't restricted to what you have to use. The whole point of this build is to bring more survivability in harder content, while dealing with a ton of tough adds or champions, or even just making boss damage phases less annoying. It's in a way sort of like having a mini World of Radiance, because the damage resist and getting health back is just too good. The barricade literally takes all of the fire off you, and you've got them infinitely. Now essentially the way you'll use this build is you'll start by placing down a barricade which instantly acts like a void one, giving you an overshield but also health, and then just damage or kill enemies to grant the healing pulse while launching out bolt charges. With solo weapons, using things like the Polaris Lance, you'll cause the exact same thing, except you'll also cause tons of ignitions, and on top of that, launch out solar projectiles to enemies nearby, and become radiant for a damage boost. So it's a much better method for effectively clearing groups of enemies, and the same thing applies to bosses. They are constantly being staggered, and when they're not, and you're in a DPS phase, you'll be a lot safer due to the barricade's initial cover, but also because any damage you take, you'll automatically heal from, as you're just doing damage over time. It's not the biggest health bump, but it is still free health. Now getting into the setup of this build, you'll first want to run the Titan's Arc Striker subclass, and I'll recommend using the Thunder Crash Super just because it's strong and supports better boss damage despite not using Cuirass of the Fallen Star. But you'll also want to run a Rally Barricade. The melee ability is up to your personal preference. I prefer the Shoulder Charge one, and then also a Pulse Grenade. For aspects we have Storm's Keep, so that casting our class ability grants a moderate amount of Bolt Charge stacks to us and nearby allies, and while behind a barricade, you and allies gain stacks of it over time, and weapons discharge at max Bolt Charge stacks. Still pretty busted. It's not as broken as before since you can no longer stack barricades, but that Bolt Charge is still stupidly strong considering you'll have it permanently if sitting back and shooting from a range is your playstyle. The second aspect though is Touch of Thunder, so that Pulse Grenades create ionic traces as it damages targets over time and increases the damage of them. This is mostly so that we can get extra ability energy from ionic traces. But for the fragments we have Spark of Shock, so the grenades jolt targets to stun overloads. Spark of Iron, so defeating those jolty targets or targets with Bolt Charge creates an ionic trace. This fragment pairs really well with weapons that we can jolt enemies with, so things like an Aikilos SMG with Vault Shot, but there are other great options out there now that I think are just better in my opinion. The third fragment we have though is Spark of Recharge, so our abilities regenerate faster when we are critically wounded, and Spark of Discharge, so that arc weapon final blows have a chance to create an ionic trace, but collecting them also grants a stack of Bolt Charge. So if you compare this build with a good arc weapon, then that would be good, but the build is balanced to work nicely with everything, so arc weapons for more Bolt Charge, solar weapons for ignitions and solar projectiles, or just any weapon. Now for artifact perks, there are a few ones benefiting solo specifically, and the first is Fever and Chill, so rapid precision hits with solar weapons grant radiant. This just makes our weapons have more damage, so using solar weapons are beneficial, because the next perk with that is Radiant Shrapnel, so being radiant releases solar projectiles and also grants grenade energy because of Shield Crush. It is quite strong with Polaris Lance, especially since it is a featured exotic weapon as well, which means it benefits from a 10% damage boost that stacks with radiant and other weapon damaging buffs. There are a few other perks we're using, but the main beneficial one is Shoulder to Shoulder, so dealing sustained precision damage while near 2 or more allies grants damage resistance. Again, works really well with boss encounters, since you could throw down a barricade and sit behind it constantly while getting health back for not just you, but allies as well, and getting the damage resistance on top. Other things to consider with this build are that I am using a 2-piece armor set for 2 types of armor, although these are just randomly added and were not focused, so you don't need these on. I am still experimenting around with armor sets at this moment, so no armor set is required for this build, but for the stats and mods though, make sure that you get your class stat to ideally 160 as a minimum, so that you can passively get the barricade back with a 100% uptime. But if you can get this stat to 200, then that would be even better. Otherwise, focus your mods in things that will grant class and grenade ability energy, so things like a utility kickstart mod, orb generating mods and stuff like that. And if you can set this build up exactly the way that I have it, then you'll be farming harder content whilst underpowered so easily that you wouldn't even notice that you're in an activity way above your power level. Honestly, give this build a try and let me know what you think of it down below, because it is, in my opinion, one of the best Titan arc builds to use right now in Destiny 2 The Edge of Fate, in Season Reclamation currently, as a bolt charge and damage resisting survivability build. But if you didn't like this build, then perhaps you'll like some of my other builds, all of which you can find in the playlist below or over on my Mobalytics page. For now, try this build out and don't forget to check out Raid Shadow Legends using my link or QR code so that you can take build crafting to the next level with a ton of bonuses to get you started. I've been Divide, I'll see you guys in the next build video.